Hi, Grayson and Isley and Atlas. It's Grandpa and it's story time. I want to tell you about a canoe trip that I took on Lake Whitaker when I was about 12 years old. I was a camper at Deerfoot, and it was time to go on a canoe trip. So our whole cabin, with our counselor, we had 2 counselors and 5 campers. 2 counselors and 5 campers. And we got done with breakfast and the morning devotions, and we went down the hill to the lake where they have all the canoes set up on the canoe racks. We took the canoes, we got them off the racks and put them in the water. And then we went over to the paddle house and selected our paddles, and we got in the canoes and started off across the lake. Well, the first thing we did is my counselor decided that we should go over to the Indian Island Bridge. So we went around the swimming area and over toward the Indian Island Bridge, and we got closer and closer, and it looked like we were going to bang our heads, and the counselor said, "Everybody duck." So we all ducked down, and our canoes slid right underneath the Indian Island Bridge and out the other side. And on the other side is the Beers cabin. Straight ahead from the Indian Island Bridge, you can see the dock of the Beers cabin. So we started off towards that, and then we didn't want to get too close so that we landed on the Beers property. So we turned and we started down across the side of Indian Island. Well, on the side of Indian Island are 2 underwater rocks, and some people don't know that they're there. But my counselor knew, so he said, "Be careful, because you don't want to hit the underwater rocks. If you hit into that, you'll put a dent in the canoe, you may splinter your canoe paddle, and if you hit it hard enough and you're going fast enough, you'll fall in the water, and all the camping equipment will fall in the water too, and it'll make a huge mess." So you don't want to hit underwater rocks while you're canoeing. So we went along the side of Indian Island, and the 2 underwater rocks are about maybe 25 feet out from the island, and my counselor carefully steered us around those rocks so we wouldn't bump into them, and then we set off into the deep water in the middle of the lake, and we made a line towards Sunset Point. Well, you know where Sunset Point is because your mom and dad probably hiked there while you were at the cabin. We set off for Sunset Point and went straight across the water, and then we slightly turned to the left and went down to Indian Campsite. Indian Campsite is the land where Deerfoot campers go with their canoes to sleep overnight. It's that piece of land that's over in the corner of the lake, in the corner of Moose Bay. We call that bay Moose Bay, and it's got that little bridge that you cross over from Mootie's Trail. Well, on this side of that bridge, there's a piece of land, and it's called Indian Campsite. And that is where we stopped our canoes, and we carefully got out onto a flat rock. we made sure that we didn't step in the water because we all had sneakers and blue jeans on, and we didn't want to get our sneakers and blue jeans wet. So we stepped out of the canoe and we carefully held onto it, and we took our paddles and put them up on the land, and then we took our canoes and put them up on the land, and then we took the packs and put them up on the land. Well, the next thing that we had to do was figure out where we were going to sleep. So the counselor said, everybody go and look around on the Indian campsite and see if you can find a flat, smooth space. Because what you want to do is find a flat, smooth space that doesn't have a lot of rocks or tree branches sticking out of the ground or stumps or bushes, because then it's really uncomfortable when you try and sleep at night. So my friend Johnny and I, we went out and we started looking around, and there weren't too many good places. So we had to kind of search in the back of the Indian campsite, and we went around the trail, and there was this beautiful flat spot. It didn't have any trunks. It didn't have any tree branches sticking out of the ground or rocks. It was really nice. It was like a gift to us that we could find this beautiful place. And it even had pine needles. Soft pine needles, like a bed of needles. And I said, perfect to go to sleep on. So we reached into our pack and we got out our tarps, our ground tarps, and we put it on top of the pine needles on the nice flat space. And then we rolled out our sleeping bags, and Johnny and I were going to sleep together because we had the buddy system. You always have a buddy when you're up at Deerfoot and when you're out on a trip, because you don't want to be alone. You always want to go by twos and have a buddy. So Johnny and I were buddies, and we laid down our bags and we put our flashlight right at the front, and we had 2 pillows. We were set. I mean, this was going to be a really cool camping trip. So after we got done with that, the counselor started cooking the fire, and he was going to make our meal and get us a really cool Deerfoot trail meal. So he got the fire going, he got the cans out, he opened them up with the can opener, and he made a wonderful feast, and we ate really well. We had a great meal, beautiful hamburgers with buns, and he even brought lettuce and tomato and mustard and ketchup, and he had these home-cooked French fries. He cut up strips of potato, and he put them in a pan and baked them over the fire, and it was really a good meal. And then he ended up with s'mores. You guys know what s'mores are because your daddy and mommy have made s'mores with you at the cabin outside in the fire pit. Well, we did the same thing over at Indian Campsite. And we made the s'mores and we had a blast. It was a really, really good time. And then it was time to go to bed. So we got into our sleeping bags and we watched the sun go down, and it got darker and darker, and pretty soon the stars came out. And I said to Johnny, this has been one of the happiest camping trips I've ever had. Let's go to sleep, and we'll be really thankful and ready to wake up for a new day. And I love you very much. Have a wonderful sleep, and I'll see you next time.